Hello, Alaska. Welcome to another Meet the Candidates. We are here today with Bee Rupright and to discuss the issues and see why we are here today to discuss what is going to happen in Juneau if Bee makes it there. Tell us a little about yourself there, Bee. I understand that you're running for Senate District D, Seat D here in the Wasilla area, Valley area.
Yes. The District G compromises Meadow Lakes, Big Lake, Point McKenzie, Kinnick, Greater Wasilla. Greater Wasilla is the city of Wasilla, and then of course all that area kind of going along Bogard and west, I believe, or no, east, and anyway taking in Cottonwood Lake and Finger Lake all the way down to there. And so that's more condensed, but that's District 7, and District 8 is the Point McKenzie and the Big Lake area. And that is a pretty expansive district.
That's pretty darn large area there to be covering. Why are you running?
Well, I have a little story about that. I'm running because I actually felt called, and this happened at an NRA banquet. We had been invited, my husband and I, Vern and I, were invited by L.D. Howard and his wife, Sarah, to go to this banquet. And when I attended, and I know this sounds so corny, and then the Pledge of Allegiance was read, I just felt like the spirit moved within me again, because actually I've been politically active for like 25 years, but the past 4 years I haven't been as active because of my job. And you know, sometimes we get tired, but I felt the spirit rise again, I guess. And some of us are just patriots, and I guess that's just the way it goes. And I see a lot of, there's more issues compiling. It's just worse than it has ever been. So since I've been here for 30 years, this is the worst state we've ever been in. So.
The swamp that is down in Juneau is definitely getting pretty ugly, especially this campaign season with all the political dirt that's coming out there. I got to throw out the biggest question that most candidates out there, some of them are refusing to answer the question more on the forum level when they're sitting there trying to talk to the constituents that are sitting out in the crowd that I've been live streaming here recently. The big question is the binding caucus, or as I personally like to call them, the illegal binding caucus that they have going on in Juneau. We're basically 10 people in the House and the Senate controlling the other legislators, the other 50 legislators' votes on how their final votes are going to be for certain bills, like the state and capital budget that they have to pass every single year, and the CBR vote that goes along with that. If give you a hypothetical scenario here, you make it to Juneau, and I'm in charge of the binding caucus there, and I invite you to come join my caucus. And in this caucus, I'll give you the pick of whatever committee that you want. Any bill that you wish to get passed or pushed through, here's your chance. You can now be in this committee that makes this happen. The front row parking spot down in front of the Juneau Capitol there, so that you don't have to walk as far in the pouring down rain that seems to happen a lot. Would you join my caucus? There's a catch though. When it comes time for the vote on certain bills like the state and capital budget and the CBR vote, your vote's going to be a yes, no matter what's in it. And I'm going to ask you for this 2 years in advance. So as soon as you get into Juneau, you're going to sign away your yes vote without even having any clue what's going to be in these bills.
Well, I had just recently spoken at another picnic. We're all going to be, or I'm hoping for a lot of new legislators going down there and senators, but we can't really promise much of anything. We're going to really try to push our programs, our bills and the things that we support, but that is one thing that I can promise. That's the one thing that I can promise, is not to join a binding caucus and I guess get booted out. But that is I believe that we're going to have a Republican sweep. I really do believe that. I think we're going to do very well, especially out here in the Valley. And I think we're going to join together and we're going to be able to stop this binding caucus. how we stop it from happening permanently. Actually, I'm not sure, and I would suggest the viewers to watch Senator Shower clip. It's only half an hour about exactly what this binding caucus is and actually how just horrible it is and takes away your representation. But to put an end to it, if we all get down there and we have a true Republican majority, then of course in Rules Committee we can just put an end to it that way. But we need to search for more permanent solution, because apparently this has been going on here in Alaska and it's wrong. It doesn't go anywhere else, and it just has to end.
Yep, I mean, if you throw Puerto Rico and Guam into the picture and say out of all 52 states that we have out there, Alaska is the only place that has a binding caucus that is a part of their legislation and how they do things. The only state. In fact, I recently learned that it has been there since the very first legislative session. And right now it's 31 legislative years ago, which is every 2 years. So that was basically 64 years ago, 62 years ago, somewhere in there, that we had our very first legislative opening of them gaveling in for the very first time, and they formed their very first binding caucus to be able to do votes with. Here's the curveball. You just said that if the Republicans get into the House and they in the Senate, and they have controlling majority interest there, which is the way it kind of was when the 31st started, before the big coup that had happened that put all the power and control into the Democrat Party's hands. If the Republicans are the true majority sitting there within the Senate, would you still join or not join the binding caucus?
No, I will not join it. I want to we can see that it's wrong, and now that it's been brought to light and so vividly by Senator Shower, this just has to end. I will not join the binding caucus. That's different from just normal caucusing where your legislators get together and they group up to support certain bills. That is acceptable, but not to have your vote bound in advance. So I will not be doing it.
You don't know how happy that makes me to hear that. There's a lot of issues that go on inside of in Juneau, and the binding caucuses has always made sure that these bills get passed, even though they make claims that budgets have been reduced. They're as low as they have been in 15 years, if I'm to believe Senator Kathy Giesel and her advertisements out there, which if you actually go and look at the record are nothing but a bunch of lies that she is putting in her ads left and right. But we have three of the big ones out there that are consistently always on the budget. They're going to be there no matter what. They're in our state constitution, and they are the largest portions of where all of our money gets spent every year. We're going to touch base on the first one here, which is early learning and K through 12. In 2018, it was an estimated budget right around $1.24 billion, or $1.25 billion there for the budget. By 2020, where we currently that has increased to $1.3 billion. That's a $60 million increase. I just got done saying that they keep claiming they've reduced the budget. That we keep hearing from early learning in K through 12 that they have reduced the budget, but the numbers just don't lie. That's just a $60 million increase. We've got the other portion of that, which is our universities. The University of Alaska in 2018 had a $900 million budget in their budget. Thanks to Governor Dunleavy getting a contract signed with them to reduce the budget $75 million over 3 years. We're in their second year of reductions, so now this year was only $850 million, not $900 million. Next year it'll be $825 million. If you are voted into office by your second year, you guys are going to be back in control of that budget, either to increase it or cut it some more. And then here we've got COVID. The COVID crisis has really brought a good eye-opener to both the university and K through 12 early learning, and the costs that it involves with doing that. Virtual classrooms came into play last year, and they're going to be a huge part of what we got going on this year inside of our school system. Knowing all of these numbers, hearing it, that is nearly 1/3 of our entire budget, all on their own between just these two departments that I just listed off of there. If you get to Juneau, what plans do you have? And because we're going to be in a fiscal crisis, we're not going to have the money to pay for all of these things. Is there anything you might want to try or do or explain to the folks watching? Because I keep hearing from the alt media and the major news networks out there that those candidates that are running don't have no plans.
Oh, well, I have a plan. Thanks for asking this question because that's my thing. Education is my thing because everything starts there. We're in a world of mess, and we have people that really don't understand the concept of a Republican form of government because I believe they really don't get their history and training in school. So that's another subject. It's curriculum, but when we're talking about cost, I think that there is a huge overburden in the administration. I believe that teachers are stymied in principals. In fact, we had a good principal at Iditarod School because he stood up. He actually went out and got funds for himself and everything. He was gotten rid of. We only had him for a year and a half. Everybody loved him, and he was like axed. I've known a lot of principals that got axed. So my
just for doing their job.
Yes, they get the axe if they stand up. So sorry, I'm getting loud because this.
Go right ahead. The whole idea is to show passion behind what you're doing. So
the idea is to. This is how we can change it and change within the Constitution as it is, because you see we don't really actually have Blaine laws, but we have it written right in the Constitution that our public education will be publicly funded, okay? It's in our Constitution. So what we need to do is get our schools under local control, and we need minimal interference, and I'm talking about the principal, the teachers, the community of that school, okay? Setting their curriculum, and I don't see that there has to be this huge oversight and all this money that goes into the education on the top end, and then also, there's some things that can be outsourced there too. I mean, so I see a huge savings there, and I see an improvement in the education system, especially when we can go for changing the curriculum, because I mean, that is an issue with me. I think that's huge. That is a huge bearing on the outcome. Producing, really students that know how to think and not what to think. And of course, we need our history in there. And
so what would you propose for? I mean, as far as the
cost, that is a huge cost savings there. Okay, and then of course out in the bush. Sorry, I didn't address that. And with the virtual classrooms, that could go a far way with the universities and out in the bush. But actually, I do like students in classrooms for the social impact, but then of course we always run into the issue of, if it's coming from the top down, you get forced onto the curriculum and certain ideas and agendas, and that's just clear. That's what I was talking about before. That's why, education is my thing. But I believe in this state and with each local control of their schools, I'm talking about every single school, you would see a huge improvement, and then you would see a differentiating among the areas, but that would be a great start.
I know one of the big issues is and I'm hearing it from the teachers in private versus hearing it here publicly, because they're afraid to go against the swamp that's in control of things. Big push for virtual classrooms this year. And in the virtual classrooms, the teachers are going, well, why can't we just start opening up our own private little schools inside of their houses, going by what the state's average is per student? They could teach 10 students in their own private home and make $100,000 a year. I mean, we're paying $15,000 a head right now for kids. 10 kids, $150,000 a year. That's almost a 1/3 for most teachers, a 1/3 increase to their entire money that they make on a yearly basis just to be able to teach 30 plus times 5 classes.
Well,
So 150 students versus 10 students to make the same amount of money to teach those same classes every year.
yeah.
But
With a reduction in spending, we could actually potentially get more teachers in there. Actually, I see that very possible. With also the reduction. I mean, it just really has to be looked at. So what I wanted to get back to with the spending, I'm not against the virtual classrooms. I don't know in the formative grades now. I think that needs some guidance. I could see a little bit of difficulties there with, how that could be administrated. At least with the local schools, we'll have, of course, some guidelines up at the state. But, then we at least have administrator and this and that over that. But each person in a single classroom in their home, well, that's probably what we do out in the bush and this and that, that's how that can be accomplished. And actually, once we get started on this local control and this community schooling idea, which is what I want to promote, and we'll see where it goes from there. But yes, as far as cutting more out of education or budgeting, okay, that's nasty politics 101. What always happens, folks, is you out there and you hear, we don't have enough money and we're cutting teachers and we're cutting this and that. That's because they just basically do not cut what they can cut. They only cut the the keystroke positions that would get you upset and thinking that we have no money or they're going to cut this and that. And they can cut it because we said the money over there, all I can do as a senator is approve that budget or whatever I'm going to do. The House actually votes for it, but even with them, it goes over there and they have control over that. What the university gets their budget, I mean, we're not seeing, but I want to see, through an audit exactly where that money's going. And they're saying we can't do anything but cut teachers and every essential service. Please. I just have to tell the public, don't buy into it, don't buy into it.
So in other words, the administrators, the 54 different school districts that we have running 503 schools, all the triplicate, quadruplet administrative staff that they have out there in positions, that is never what they throw out on the table, that these people are going to lose their jobs. They always go after the bleeding heart story of saying, we're going to cut your teachers, we're going to eliminate the teachers.
And your programs and whatever.
Instead of the administrators and where the actual real overhead that seems to be created every year is actually coming from.
Yes, exactly, Matt. So that's my answer.
Okay. Would it surprise you to find out that virtual classrooms only cost $5,000 a year per student versus $15,000 that we're currently spending?
No. That's where I said it should be utilized also. This could be utilized, especially in the higher classes.
Well, we'll throw out one more out there. Would it surprise you that the virtual classrooms that have been running for a decade or longer do better in their scholastic scores and graduation rates than 90% of the schools that we have here in Alaska already?
Well, actually, I didn't know that. But I do know that charter schools and private schools have better outcomes. And I know that that's been proven statistically. And, they have smaller classrooms. There's obviously, more attention to detail. In the virtual classroom, you can also go back and you can study some more, and you should have a mentor available for all of that. I mean, your mentor has to be there to help you.
Yes, they do.
Or be available some way.
They do. I am now a mentor of 6 children in the state of Alaska, and I only have one of my own. Just to give you an idea
That's fantastic.
Several different parents out there.
I don't know where you find the time. For all of that.
Actually, in most cases, being a mentor is being nothing more than their positive support in the background, encouraging them to do a good job, making sure, to follow up. How are you doing on your assignments? Is there anything that I can help you with? Is there anybody out there that I can get you in touch with where your areas are lacking that maybe myself don't understand the curriculum they're working on? My child, before school even got started, we're talking a month and a half ago, came up to me and says, Dad, I don't want to go back to regular school. I love my teachers. I love my friends that are there. but I think I'm getting a better education online than what I had received while I was in class. I don't have the pressures that were in class. I don't have the bullying that happens on a consistent basis there. And so she gave me out all these long list of reasons why not. And I looked at her and I said, well, sell me on it. I want to see what virtual classrooms can provide for you that a stable brick and mortar school can't. So she spent days and hours putting together this presentation to me, comparing several different virtual classrooms, including the one that's coming from Florida that the governor put into place, and several more that are here already in Alaska. And she also compared them to the brick and mortar schools for scholastics and what they were doing performance-wise, graduation rates, where were their reading scores, where were their math scores in comparison to what the rest of the schools in our districts were doing. By the time she was done, I said, well, it looks like I got no legs to stand on. I can't argue against your facts. You laid out a very good presentation for me here, and sure, go to this school. Next thing I know, she's talking to her friends' parents and giving them the same dialogue and speech, and that's how I became a mentor for all of these different kids out there and helping them along. Let's move along anyways, because school is going to be...
You have a lot more resources than I do in that. So, I mean, I'm not saying that that's off the table. I mean, that would be part of this, part of what I'm looking at too. Reduce the spending in education, and I believe it's way possible. I mean,
And by all means, I am not an advocate for getting rid of all of the brick and mortar schools. That has never been my intention, but for majority of what they're doing out there, I wouldn't have a heartache over seeing 80% of them go bye-bye. But anyways, let's move on. We've covered the University of Alaska, kinda, and I want to touch a little bit more upon it. The University of Alaska has had their budget reduced, as I stated before. They're in their second year. They got one more to go, and then when you're in your second year of office, this will be your opportunity now to decide on: do we increase their budget? Do we cut their budget a little bit more? Can you fill us in? What's your knowledge about the University of Alaska? I mean, we funding-wise, we're in the top percentage for what the state actually contributes for what they get to spend compared to the rest of the United States.
well, I know that they have their trust, they have their land trust, and they have property, and they have resources. So that's what I know about them as far as the other funding. But I'm sorry, you are obviously more knowledgeable about me than that. I do know that they do some things that I have come across on the campaign trail that I would look into, and that's where they charge other state departments money to do something that could be done a lot cheaper. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this right, but yeah, we're talking once again about the unnecessary departments or even processes that they use that are very expensive. So I do know that that's going on there. So
They do have the administration staff, all this overhead for running their universities that could easily be consolidated into one.
when I talk about the university and finding out about that, and I believe, and I've heard it goes on all in the state, where states charge each other or different departments, and this stuff is going back and forth, and it's on paper, and then it looks like something on the budget, and it's not. That's another way that they can get around saying, oh, the budget is increasing, but it actually, it's this play.
Well, you brought up a very good point, though. They are a land grant university. One of my best examples that I could provide is we have the Native Corporation that owns where the Tunatnu Commons are off of Muldoon Road. Yes. There. That, growing up as a child here in Alaska, being here my entire life, I remember that as kind of my little private playground to go and play in, because it was all wooded and forested, and you could go have fun. I'm a Muldoon rat. I grew up in that area. And then the corporation decided we're going to develop up this land, and they not sold, but they leased this land to all of the businesses that you currently find inside of that Tunatnu Commons. As a land grant, as a university has the same opportunity to do exactly what this corporation has done and take their land, get it developed up by the businesses that want to be there, and receive money coming to them on a monthly, yearly. I mean, these corporations have 100-year leases with this corporation. So for the next 100 years, they've got access to this land to use it, and based upon their contract, that's 100 years worth of income that's known.
Okay, so let's just, I guess, close that by saying that we both don't believe that they're using their resources
They're not.
appropriately, and or I guess that's it. They should be.
So just some food for thought for you is basically what a lot of these questions that I have are, is to just try to expand your knowledge about what you're walking into, and making sure that you know that there's other options available out there on top of it all. So the next big monkey in the room, and oh boy, this is the biggest monkey in the room. It's at this point, it's almost double what the university and K through 12 is combined. The legislators out there like to say that our education system is the highest budget items that we have, which is false, especially when you look at the actual numbers. And that's health and social services, our health care. The stuff that they provide out there through Medicaid and all these other departments. In 2018, it was $2.47 billion is what they were spending there. In just 2 short years, this last year, they spent $3.6 billion. That is it's just absolutely astronomical when you look at it, because that's basically a $1.2 billion increase in just 2 short years. They had to add in a $300 million supplemental onto the budget to cover the shortfalls that they had this past year, depending on how many supplementals you want to look at, because they had roughly around $600 million more above what they had budgeted actually got paid into health and social services to cover the shortfalls. They want to blame it on Governor Dunleavy's cuts to the budget that caused this. When they were going through their legislative meetings talking about the budget this year for what they're planning for the following year, which, by the way, the 2021 fiscal budget has $3.2 billion already budgeted to it. So it's not like it's less than what they ended up paying, but ever since the expansion that Walker unilaterally shackled us all with, they have been short $100 million to $300 million every single year that they've had to add in as a supplemental budget to cover the shortfall to health and social services. So when they say 3.2, I'm putting it at more around 3.4, 3.6 before the year is finally up for what it actually did cost. So this is the big, like I said, the huge monkey is our health and social services. Kathy Giesel was recently on a radio program out there, and she says the way to reduce the health budget is by doing something with the healthy men. And I wish I was joking there. I had to replay it 4 times. That healthy men are the way to reduce the budget for what it is costing out there for health and social services. And I kept playing that over, and I kept trying to figure out what in the world did she mean by healthy men is the way to reduce it. Are we going to take healthy men and make sure that they don't have these services available to them anymore? It never went into detail. The radio host that she was talking to literally kept grilling her on all these different subjects out there over and over. And whenever she gave the politician answer of no answer, they didn't give up. They just kept attacking her on it and wanting to actually get real details. So being the big monkey in the room, it is over 1/3 of our budget, well over 1/3 of our budget every single year. The budget this year is estimated, with all the numbers that they don't talk about, $13.2 billion is what we're going to spend here as the state of Alaska for this entire year that we're currently in.
Okay.
What are your plans if you get there?
What are my plans? This is the one question that I wish we could avoid it here, because I'm not I'm not sure what to do. I do know that we can't get out of it unless we enlist federal aid. I mean, we have to get something done on the federal level, so that will be with our senator and our senators and our legislators. So I believe in. I have some ideas, but actually I just can't come forward with them. I can't say that. But I think there are people out there that are not should not be receiving it. Now that's an area to fix that. There's also, of course, as we talked about in other budgets, how's that being handled? How's it being administrated? I mean, there's a lot to look at. When we talk about spending at the end, I'm talking about, I'm going to be talking about an audit. I'm talking about a real audit, because our auditor is actually within the state of Alaska, and the title is internal or independent state auditor, but they work from within the state. So I have a little bit of an issue with that, but first we can start there, but I want to call for a true audit. This is something that has been getting looked into, and I think it's so involved that we haven't got the full facts yet. But I believe that certainly there can be cutting there. I mean, if we can't get out of it, I mean, I just can't believe that we can't get out of it and do something more reasonable. I mean, we get to join in contract. This is actually a contract with the federal government, and I guess what I have to say is we need a different contract. There we go.
Well, I will say the unspoken, just because it makes things a lot easier, especially for the audience that's watching out there. When it comes to our healthcare and our costs, the reason why we have had such a large increase that was there is all these people that were enrolled into Obamacare, that were supposed to be under the Obamacare program. They increased the limits of poverty level. So all of a sudden they found themselves qualified to be enrolled into Medicaid. Well, with the expansion that the governor had put out there, and these people are now into Medicaid, they were put into the 50-50 portion that Alaska has, which we pay 50%, the federal government pays for 50%. So there's one of the reasons why we had such a large increase in what is being put out there in health and social services. The other factor of that's going on out there, and I'm going to piss a lot of people off out there that are watching this, is our Alaska Natives are first and foremost put into the Medicaid program for all of the benefits that they receive and the income that is being paid out there to health and social services for their services that they're receiving. They are federally granted health care that federal government is supposed to pay for. The excuse is that Medicaid is easier, they pay faster, and they pay more than what the federal government does. So they are told, mandated unofficially, to bill Medicaid instead of the federal government first. And whatever Medicaid does not cover, then they bill the federal government for the remaining of the benefits that are out there. This is a huge cost increase, and it's been going on for a very long time.
Yes, I understand that.
So, like I said,
just put it out there. I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it.
I'm here to expose the dirt.
Also needs to be done, assisted with the federal government. We're really kind of hand-tied with that. That is something for the governor. I'm going to support any process that removes individuals that I don't believe should be receiving Medicare or Medicare first, as you said in this case. When there's other resources for them. So,
yes.
There you go.
That would dramatically reduce the costs that us as taxpayers are having to cover for the state. If they were to actually do billing of the federal government first, and then whatever the federal government doesn't pay for, then actually go to Medicaid and go for any remaining monies after that. There's a lot of different things they could do. It's all in who you do first and who you do second. A simple switch. I wouldn't be surprised if we could have a $500 million to $1 billion a year savings just by doing that one billing switch all on its own.
Absolutely. But once again, this is in with the federal government, and it's just something we need to keep
Well,
looking into.
it's the federal government has nothing to do with this. This is internal state policies
For the switch, you mean?
for the switch.
All right.
This has nothing to do with the federal government, who gets
Okay.
billed first.
I apologize.
This is
to people
underneath the,
listening.
this is
I'm
under,
not,
this is under legislative's control.
Okay.
And kind of like, I'm going to throw out one more for the federal government and Obamacare. President Trump went right after he got into office, and there was a big deal made out of it at the time. He gave Alaska $150 million to be split over 3 years, $50 million a year, to reduce the costs of Obamacare, because costs were doubling, tripling for what they were originally when they first launched it. This reduction hit its final year. So that $50 million that they put in there, that's supposed to reduce the people that are paying for Obamacare, is going to be gone this year. Alaskans are not paying attention to this. They do not realize this is coming up and that this is about ready to happen. But our insurance that we pay for through Obamacare is about ready to double. Unless there is help from the federal government to reduce those costs again. Let's say you're paying $3,000 a year right now, and that's a really low amount for health care.
all right.
You're now going to pay $6,000 instead, because that money that was there reducing the cost is going to be disappearing. I'm not sure what time it is, but we can move right along here to go for the last couple of items that we have.
But I just wanted to add into that. That's just horrific of what the whole healthcare prices. I mean, and as an advocate, I remember I talked to you about the 25 years or whatever political experience. So with the CPG, I mean, we put on symposiums against Obamacare, and we even had doctors, conservative doctors coming in there and talking about that. We put on this big thing live at a theater, and it's just horrific. And apparently, we're going to be right back there again. I mean, in a worst case, but I mean, I didn't believe that was the solution in the first place, but it's bad.
So the last one, I've got at least two more that I've got to make sure that I get covered here. We've got our Alaska resources: mining, timber, fishing, oil, the permanent fund dividend. I consider them all a part of Alaskans' resources that we have for development. We have the statutory PFD formula that is still on the books that has been ignored for the last 5 years. They put a new law, SB 26, onto the books that gave them a POMV draw of 5% more coming from the earnings reserve. They are now using tax money to pay a portion of our permanent fund dividend over the last 2 years. This has happened last year and this year. They have ignored their own SB 26 laws that they have put onto the books. They have ignored the statutory PFD laws that they have put on the books. They have put their own imposed cap on how much money they are willing to spend. They refuse to transfer the money that they now call an appropriation and not a transfer for our statutory PFD. They ignore the formulas. If you go to Juneau, where do you stand on all of this? Yes, I roll it into one.
I'll roll what I wanted to talk about too in there, and that's against Prop 1, because that's first. We have to not overtax our prime resource, our income. Okay, we don't want it to go away. So I'll get back to that in a minute, but to answer your question, so that also ties into that, because we need those monies because we get our permanent fund dividend, of course, off of our permanent fund principal, and that is the oil and mineral revenues going into that. So, we don't want to send our people bye-bye or reduce our production out there. So you got to vote no against Prop 1. But like I said, I'll try to get back to that. But permanent fund is our money. Okay, that is a resource, because when that money goes in the economy, it changes hands like 6 or 7 times. I mean, and we get a bonus. I like to say that we have Christmas for 4 months, generally when it comes out in October instead of the usual 2, people spending. And businesses usually go into the black at that time. And, this has been a great thing for Alaska. It's like we've had a little industry here, or actually a fairly big industry, and that's how we need to look at the monies that come in. I mean, it's actually an economy boost, okay? So we need that. and it's our right. We gave up the ground under our feet for that. It's not a give out. It's not something that, oh, we're just going to get if, you know, they feel like it now with their funky percentage of market value with the permanent fund tied into it, which is wrong. So we need that out there. So I mean, I support the full amount, the full statutory amount, although I have a couple of different ideas. I want to create a trust. I mean, I want to break up that principal fund into a different category, you know, take I'm not going to say those words. I almost said it, take our share, our due share, and put it into a trust account, and then we'll also get the royalties into that, and then we can get our dividends out of the hands of the legislature, or we determine what percentage. I believe it's 10 to 12% of the principal interest earnings that we usually receive. It's not what people think, but that's actually what the 50-50 statutory split comes down to. We can get that percentage put right into the Constitution. I think we can do that. It's not going to cause a convention or anything because the principal fund is already established in there. And if we're doing something adding on to that, I think we can just, that can just
Well,
be put right in there, and that also is out of the legislature's hands completely. So, but of course, you know, if we're just going to stay with the statute, I don't want this to happen again. This is it. I want it permanently saved, period. It's our money.
Well,
and that's it.
some food for thought for you. Do some research on the statutory PFD and the formula. Make sure that you're well versed in exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Then take a look at what SB 26 is and make sure you're well versed on what those laws are.
Well, yeah.
Third, I'm going to throw it out there is that SB 26 needs to be 100% repealed.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you 100% that our statutory PFD under the original formula needs to be locked into the Constitution of Alaska so that this can never happen again. The formula, like you were describing, is set up to where you're right, it is only about 10% of the actual earning reserves that is even looked at when it comes to this entire thing. And we Alaskans get our half, which is 5%, and the state of Alaska gets their half, which is 5%, and this is what we're supposed to be getting paid out there, and the state of Alaska gets to spend theirs and we get to spend ours. But the way the last 5 years is the state gets theirs and they steal over half of ours and give it over to themselves to spend any way they want and say, here's what we think you're allowed to have, ignoring the formula. So it's really close to what you're describing, but some of the things I think you just do a little bit of research out there. It will help you out.
I do understand the SB 26, and yes, it has to be repealed. We need a spending cap. That is their attempt at a spending cap, but it's wrong because it includes the PFD, and also, you know, any spending cap. I mean, just over the past 4 years, and actually in the past, I mean, they've been taking money out everywhere. It's what they have out there for. What are they trying to push on the people saying we don't have any money is by taking the permanent fund out of there and then saying, oh, well, we have to go in the earnings reserve count. Oh, we got to go in the capital budget reserve count. Well, actually, that's always where we've been getting our money anyway. It's kind of like
it's a shell game.
It's a shell game. Yes, it's a shell game. Okay, exactly. So.
I mean,
I don't know. I can't even imagine the thought process that went in with putting this forward. But you know, if you're uneducated, you know, maybe you'll believe that. So it's not true. It's not true. In fact, the only portion of money that we can't spend or haven't spent in the past is actually the principal. So you can get into that earnings reserve, you can get into the budget or capital budget reserves, which of course I'm against doing that, and I'd like to see something there where we actually save it. I mean, make it even more difficult than a 3/4 vote. Maybe I don't actually know if this can be done legally, but you know that there has to be extingent circumstances. You know, like we have actually, you know, shortfall in a budget, so we can get that. And then because that should be our savings account. We should be taking loans from it, and I mean, you know, it's.
They should make it so that before they get to even spend it, it has to go to the vote of the people. Period. I mean, before they're allowed to spend anything from that earnings reserve account, they should have it for a vote of the people. They did it back in 1999 when they first tried to do it. Overwhelmingly, the vote of the people said no, outright no. If they were to give us the vote right now, I don't think the results from 1999 would be any different than they are right now in 2020. It would be an outright standing over 80% vote not to do this.
Okay. So is that a vote to get from the principal fund or the earning reserves account?
That was from taking from the earnings reserves account. Before they can even touch the money of the earnings reserve account, they gave us Alaskans a chance to vote on it in 1999. And Alaskans, over 83% of Alaskans outright told our legislators at the time, no, you are not allowed to touch our money, spend it on government. You need to either reduce spending or find other ways to come up with it.
Well, that's a point I wanted to do. Well, what was it? It wasn't Hammond. Was it Hammond or Sheffield? Oh, gosh. Sorry, I'm tired. But anyway, when we went through the crash of the 80s, I mean, they didn't steal from the permanent fund dividend or from any of our fund accounts. They reduced spending, hey.
Exactly. So, and just to throw out there, when you're talking about capping the budget, there's a bill, SB 104, that they have out there that is what you were describing the legislators are trying to pass, which does put our permanent fund dividend underneath that cap. So, long story short, budget's $5 billion this year. They decided to increase it to $5.5 billion, but the cap is set to $6 billion. We only get to have $500 million for our permanent fund dividend. Next year, they say, oh, we're at $5.5 billion in our spending. We want to spend $500 million more. They're now at the cap of $6 billion for state and capital spending. Oh, I'm sorry, Alaskans. There's no money left for your permanent fund dividend. We can't give you one this year. That's the current SB 104 bill that they have out there that's already passed the Senate, from my understanding, or it's in the final committees, but COVID stepped in the way of this bill going any further. Thank God for that happening this year.
Yes, well, I won't be joining any bill like that, for sure. But, you know, folks out there, we're doing something a little different, because I have to check the time. We can't have our phones near us because of the buzz.
Well, I'm just going to throw out the last questions here, and then we'll call it good.
But they don't have a clock in here, so I'm sorry, I have to go to work. So.
If that clock on the wall there is correct, it's only 1:45.
Oh, well, we can keep going.
So we've actually got a lot of time left here.
We were both looking around. I didn't see that one before. Go.
Yeah, this is rolling a lot faster than you think here.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I'd go into a more detailed explanation. So do we want to go back to the resources and the permanent fund? Yeah.
Yes,
let's
go
do
for
that. Okay, and we're talking about I wanted to put in about the ballot measure 1, just pop that in there. At this point is that, I don't know if most people aware, we do have a little bit of a transient population here, or we know we do here in Alaska. So, all right, we've changed our taxes here 7 times in 14 years, okay? Now, is that any way to do business? I mean, if you were a business person, would you keep changing and say, oh, well, no. All right, yesterday I was going to charge you 3 cents tax, and now I'm going to charge you a shipping rate differential now. Okay, now that was last week, okay? We have to, we got to change that up again. No, you wouldn't be doing business there, would you? So, I mean, this is the biggest point about this tax. There's some very erroneous information out there about Ballot Prop 1. And this goes to, I'm putting this into the resources because this is our main resources. So actually people say, the actual tax credits have been, that most people were upset about, they were actually repealed in 13, and as soon as I find mine, I can tell you the bill number that was. There's some here. Yes. Well, actually, she doesn't tell me in here what they were, but in 2013 and 15, those actual cash credits were taken away. So that's not going on. What we have is a per barrel credit, and that is actually not a credit. They don't receive money back or anything, but as the prices go higher or lower, they get some leeway from $0 to $8. Okay, so that's basically all we got going on, and then we got a 35% flat tax rate, but it's adjusted by this going up and down, so it saves us at the low end, okay? The low end of oil production. When the price is low, the oil companies don't get taxed as much, and that is good because they're not getting as much money, and it's expensive to do business here. We are the most expensive. We've got to remember that. It's not like we can't compare ourselves to anywhere else because of the cost of the expense to drill up here and produce our gas and oil up here. So we have that going on, but we do get more money, and they're saying, no, we need this progressive tax, or we're not getting our fair share. I really hate that term, fair share. I mean, I don't know, or I mean, you know, sorry, let me just say, socialism, we're here now, you know, I mean, what, our fair share, is this a government entity? No, it's a private business. This is a business. You want people coming into your business and saying, well, I want my fair share, you know, I mean, because it's my due. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is...
You're just
mindset is wrong.
So to put it into layman's terms, if I was down in the lower 48 and I went to go and buy a gallon of milk, I'm going to spend $2 for that gallon of milk. But here in Alaska, I go into the store and I see them and they've got that gallon of milk for $4. And I'm going to go up to that store owner and I'm going to say, this is outrageous. I want my fair share. I want to spend only $2 for this gallon of milk, because that's what it costs to do it anywhere else. I don't care that it costs more to distribute it, costs more to receive it, costs more to get it to the area where you are. I want to pay exactly what they get down there versus what it is here. No different than our oil. Down in Texas, they basically go straight from the ground and directly to the refinery, and it's being processed. They don't got thousands and miles that's got that transelastic pipeline that's got to be pumping that oil through. They have none of the environmental hurdles that we have here in Alaska that have to be worried about and taken care of on a daily basis. They're not limited to only wintertime exploration. There is all of these additional costs and into the cost of actual production of getting that oil to market that you don't see in Texas. Texas goes, there's the oil, drill. They drill, it starts pumping. And unlike down in Texas, the person that owns that land in Texas owns all the oil underneath it. Here in Alaska, you own that piece of land with the oil under it. The state of Alaska owns it.
That's why we have the PFD, we have our dividends. So, yeah, so actually the tax structure the way it is progressive, so that when the oil prices go up, we do get more money. So, I think
the break even is $60 a barrel when they quit receiving any credits or something like that. I'm just
not going to comment. I have this here, but I can't read it because it came out all faded. I do have the graph of that exact question, but I'm sorry, you guys. Oh, I did want to say, yes, if you want to look at this information, it's very clear. It's at onealaska.com. Okay, you can go to onealaska.com and also get signs and whatever. So I was told I could say that. It's just a little blurb. So you can get all this information there. So actually, I believe, I try to look at other tax regimes in other states, but since our cost of expenses is so high, there really isn't any comparison. But I believe that this is fair. This is absolutely fair. And what we're going to do is go through a short period of time right now, since this is our only horse of the game still at this time, and for about 2 years, and then we're going to see increased production slowly going up. That's the projection.
Yeah.
So we got to hold the line for 2 years. That is not that difficult to do, especially when I see reduction in spending, possible. I mean, I want to call for that audit. I want to be into everything. Anyone who knows me knows that I do a lot of research, and I also, I haven't mentioned my husband before, but I'm going to mention now because I'm running. But my husband, Vern, was the mayor of Wasilla, but I've had a huge amount of experience through that. I mean, all the nitty-gritties, backdoor stuff, that is going to be essential to me to have this knowledge. But through him, as being an attorney, I also have another legal mind there. I mean, and he's a strict constitutionalist too. So what we need to get back to is any arguments when we're putting forth our bills or we're looking at anything we need to go right back to common law and our Constitution. What the problem is with everything that we're facing is that the judicial system has gotten out of control, okay? I mean, there's supposed to be a third and equal branch. They're not supposed to be the power.
Exactly.
All power lies with us, and I'm going to reiterate that right at the end. Or just like this one thing that I actually thought of, I just have to say it right now. I have to say it now. We've heard in the past, power to the people, and this and that, all about power. I'd like to say that to the audience out there, you are the power. That is our constitutional guarantee. You have to really own that and exercise it. You are the power. So
Yep.
we need to get back to that.
Simply put, legislators, judicial, the governor, they're all servants to Alaskans.
That's right.
They're there to serve us, not the other way around. You guys are not there to us to serve you. It's you guys are there to serve us and the will of Alaskans and the needs to make sure that we are well taken care of. The best that you guys possibly can under the current circumstances.
Well, we need to take that back. I mean, and how that can be taken back is through, through education, changing education systems, through your legislators, bringing forth this common law, bringing forth arguments, as I will, that's what I intend to do, that are based on the common law and the Constitution, so that our opposition can only look like they are, and that is that they are completely superseding or try to eradicate the Constitution into some kind of a livable, breathable document, or actually basically not even a republic. You got to know what a republic is first, and these are the processes we need to use. We need to bring that back. That's what I want to bring back. I mean, I have absolutely no problem with that.
You just
step right out there.
You just said something there that is so true, and I wish more people out there would understand. We are a republic. We're not a democracy. This is not democracy now. We are a republic.
Okay, let's get into this. Let's get into this, because this is actually where I wanted to finally get to in this interview.
Yes.
Okay.
We were built on the founding principles that the people, using the smallest government possible, would try to expand the knowledge and experience and the quality of life that we all get to enjoy. But the people, Alaskans, people in the United States, all get to expand upon the ideas of how that is to be fundamentally done. And that's what a republic is you got a small government body that is instituting the will of the majority of the population. And then here we've got democracy, which is the exact opposite of that.
Okay, well, let me just cover something for you real quick before you get into what democracy is. Now, the confusion has always been, and this is how they've gotten away with it through people's minds and over the years, is we use a democratic process. But that's just a process within our Republican form of government. So do not be confused. I know everyone's confused about that. Don't be. So he's going to talk about what a democracy is now, obviously. So
a democracy is a government that institutes its will by growing its own internal body to continuously take away or utilize their powers to what rights everybody is to have. It is no longer the voice of the people, but the voice of the government that decides, and it's an easy way to describe it is socialism, communism is all a democracy. A democracy is kind of a government-controlled institution that is meant to design to grow larger and larger and larger, slowly taking over your health care. Because we know better than you do as a civilization for you civilians. The government knows better how to run your lives than you do. And that's basically what a democracy versus a republic is you got a government that's in control versus the people.
Okay.
I'm trying to put it into as layman terms as you possibly could ever get. I'm probably
going to try to
foobarred it all
up. Well, the democracy is as close to the republic as you can get. So, but and let's take a look at Britain. So they try to have some checks and balance there with the parliament, and and they're fighting back and they're getting some control there. But the problem with this purely democracy type of government is that you kind of have the flavor of the day and the rabble rule. And what he was talking about, and the government's laying down what he is. So the people have a voice, but unfortunately, it seems to go along with the flavor of the day instead of based on laws, as in the Republican. Every single individual counts. Every single individual's rights. In a democracy, that becomes so fuzzy, and then these groups, I mean, we know that we hear about our special interest groups in this country all the time and everything. The reason why we haven't been completely demolished yet, I would have to say, because we have our laws and because we are a republic. Okay, and they've gone through a bad time in England because, yes, the groups have grown and they get their way, the flavor of the day, the squeaky wheel, and that is not a republic. Okay, yep. That's not the way republic is supposed to be. Okay, so that's what goes on there, and actually it's going on here, and that is not what we should be doing. And once I said, we get back to the law and we realize that it's every single individual, and here in America, that's what we prize and we possess and we profess.
Well, we've got a very prime example of the difference between a republic and a democracy happening in Anchorage right now with the homeless issue.
And things are way heating up now.
That they are.
Look at the news today.
Between the lockdowns of COVID and the homeless issue, illegally using money to purchase buildings, this is a democracy at work when it comes to these illegal and fundamentally constitutional rights that we have being stepped upon. I find it really, really appalling to see them compare the plague of the 1800s when all these people were dying out there. I think it was 1919 or 1819, something like that. But the Spanish flu, we'll just throw the word out there. The Spanish flu was going on and people were dying left and right, and they had a mask mandate. And they would throw you in jail, and they would do all these different things. In fact, one person got killed, shot outright by a police officer because he did not have his mask on. I'm reading all of these interesting articles that are out there revolving around this plague. And they're comparing the Spanish flu to the current plague that we have now. The big difference is the Spanish flu affected everyone. Didn't matter how old you were, how young you were, how old you were, how healthy you were. It was a deadly disease that attacked everyone. And then here we got COVID. COVID, statistically, 99.9% or 99% of all the population out there that is being affected right now is people with underlying conditions, and those that are over the age of 70 or 60, somewhere in that ballpark. They can't, all I can say is you got to be over the age of 50 years old before you even consider it, unless you got underlying issues, as someone that's going to have a problem with this disease. If you're a 30-year-old, odds are it's going to be nothing more than a bad headache, a temperature, and maybe some nausea and body aches, and then you're over it. And you're back, just no worse than what the normal flu is.
Okay. So we're talking about what's going on in Anchorage.
So in Anchorage, we've got the big protest. 200 some people showed up in front of the Lusac Library last night.
That was yesterday.
To protest them closing down their businesses, back to curbside service. And here you got the mayor, who has controlling interest in 3 businesses that are out there that have shut down the streets out in front of his businesses to open up outdoor dining. Carl's own special interest little group, making sure that his form of democracy is well taken care of. The government entity that he works in, the special interests that they cater to, are well taken care of. Meanwhile, the rest of us citizens who don't have that form of democracy working in their corners have been shut down, told to close their doors, go fire all the people they just got done rehiring because they're no longer conducting any indoor business anymore. And they're expected, and then under a republic form of democracy, or I got to get rid of that word, under a republic, this never would have happened because government would not have been in enough power to be able to instill these kind of backwards laws or mandates, as they call them, on all of us.
Well, I'm not sure if they're legal anyway. I mean, no one's just challenged it. I mean, but yes, the situation is very heated up in Anchorage, and I'm watching it expectantly. And I was wondering how long it was going to take before those people stood up. But you know, we can talk about that virus. I have this. Oh, I sent you a link, and you probably saw it before, from the doctor who has the actual prescription and everything for the two medications, Z-Pack and the other one that I'm probably not going to.
Hydrochloroquine.
Okay. So I sent you that link, and you know, somebody sent that to me yesterday. I mean, with the actual percentage dosage, and there's actually a graph for how it helps. You know that it actually wipes it out of your bloodstream. So after so many days, and it's fantastic. So I sent that to you. So I can't believe the statistics, but I've got. I don't believe statistics. Okay, just put it there.
Well, I want to add on.
Who are concerned, but you know, I'd have to say that this is the issue. This is the issue. See, hands, washing your hands a lot, and you know, I just find it funky out here. Although I don't see, you know, people out here in the valley, which I love. I have to say this. This is what I wanted to get in here. Also, I just love the Metz Valley. I'm so proud to be a part of it. You know, and then in my past political activities with the CPG and all kinds of different groups. Okay, and there's groups out there right now that, you know, we are like some stronghold of conservative and patriotic people. Let's see, maybe, you know, that word's just thrown around so much. Patriots who understand their Constitution and who understand what a republic is.
And we're not afraid to social distance, and I'm going to throw this out there. We social distance from each other when it's appropriate. I watch everybody out there is very conscious of what they do with their hands and where they put their hands and where they touch their hands. I know of, and the reason why I'm bringing this all up is because these are all things that we should be doing. They're washing their hands on a regular basis. They carry hand sanitizers with them, so in case they need a quick wash and don't have sinks available to them, they have a way to be able to keep their hands germ-free. But they're not wearing any mask. They're not out here, but unlike Anchorage, you're not seeing the astronomical rise of COVID cases here in the valley like you're seeing in Anchorage, where they're forcing everybody to wear a mask all the time. You would think that the valley would be the viral spread of Alaska at the moment, considering we've got 130,000 plus people that live out here.
Yes, until just recently, as you did, and that mandate didn't come down from the government or anything. It's just suddenly the bigger stores started imposing that, and they also said, or at least I read on the Walmart site, that they can't do anything to you if you choose to not wear a mask. They're not throwing you out or anything. So I guess everyone's doing as they feel their conscience dictates right now. And I have this, I wash my hands, whatever, and I have this, so in case someone is nervous, I'm not going to force my own beliefs on them, so I can do that if, that's appropriate. And then, of course, in case I get a quick sneeze or cough, because, that's like a no-no now. Oh, boy, you better have allergies, so you're in trouble.
Well, it's like myself, I'm pretty sure you've heard me cough more than once during this interview, and it's because I'm allergic to perfume. So if I get around perfume, or I'm in a room that uses it, especially with the sanitizers that they're using out there right now,
sanitizers are hard to me. I got a special.
It causes my allergies to go crazy, and my nose plugs up, and my throat begins to itch and tickle, which causes me to cough a lot more than what I normally do. And even right now I'm wheezing because there's something inside of this room that is affecting me.
So I don't know why I need perfume for an interview, but I had to.
So it's my normal curses. But you bring up like sneezing, and I got to chuckle that We're supposed to be stopping the spread of germs, but if you watched KTVA last night about the elections and voting, and here's some things that you should know about that you're wearing your mask into safely voting, that if you have to sneeze, you are to pull your mask down and sneeze into your arm. Why in the world of hell do we got a mask on in the first place if all we're supposed to do is pull the mask down and go sneeze into our arm? Or if you got a cough, you got to cough into your arm.
That's what I'm trying to point out. I think we're both trying to point out how nonsensical some of these measures are, that they don't really make sense when you think about it. So I think the most important things is the hands. Wash those hands.
Yep.
Be careful. Just be conscious and be courteous, and that's what we need to do.
And if you're going to be around people that are at the at-risk, be extra careful. Wear that mask.
Yes.
Wash those hands before going into where those people are located at. I've got friends that are in their 60s and 70s, and I guarantee you, I wear a mask around them. I make sure I wash my hands, or as soon as they let me inside of their house, I go straight to the sink and I wash my hands. Make sure that I'm not going to take any chances of passing something on to them, because they're at the at-risk. They've got underlying conditions. Some of them got cancer. Some of them have had heart attacks in their lives. High blood pressure, diabetes. You name the underlying condition that they had as a contributing factor of all this, it's there. I'm conscious to that kind of stuff, just like you're describing there. But in an everyday life, I've been sitting in the middle of crowds of thousands and thousands of people, live streaming videos.
Well, I work with the public, and I'm not sick, so I get a lot of contact, and that's my job, and I'm not sick. So, these measures work. Whatever I've been doing is obviously working for me.
So I'm going to throw another big one out there, prop number 2.
Prop number 2, I'm against that, so for 2 reasons. Okay, it goes against, or I guess it eliminates the primary. It says it right there, right in the.
No, it turns the primary into a jungle primary, and it eliminates the parties.
It eliminates the primary as we know it. Then.
Yes.
It says it right there. Okay, so you don't know people who you're voting for, because then when they go on this jungle ballot where everyone's all together, they do not have to list their party affiliation if they don't want to. So you have no idea what this person stands for, or that's very confusing for the only somewhat informed voter who just might be hearing ads of this and that, and nobody's putting out any information. They can all sound good. They don't really know what their positions are. I mean,
exactly.
How can you go and vote like that? I mean, that's a horrible. That's wrong. So no. And then of course, as the uploading or the falling off votes, so either your vote doesn't count or it goes up to someone that you didn't vote for, because that guy moves up. So in fact, that's what happens. So now you got a guy that you didn't vote for. No, 1 vote to 1 person. I mean, my gosh, anything else is absolutely absurd. Look at what they're doing here, folks. Got the gall of anyone to even suggest this. I'm sorry, I find this prop is just man, it's way overboard. I mean,
Alaska Democrats used it for the first time here in Alaska during the primaries to choose which Democrat president that they would like to see move forward. From my understanding, it was all done behind closed doors. They never, ever did show the results or how this process actually worked for them, and what the end results were for Biden. I always slaughter his name just because I have a hard time respecting a person that cannot remember where he is. They chose to do ranked choice voting this year in their elections for their presidential pick. Again, it was all done behind closed doors. Alaskans do not get to hear the results of how that turned out. But I'm going to throw out there Iowa, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and the snafu that happened there with their ranked choice voting. Just like what happened here in Alaska, the results ended up going all behind closed doors. Massive problems trying to calculate and tally out how they're ranked each individual person. I want this one number one. I want him to be number two. I want Kamala Harris to be number three, so on and so forth. And as each candidate was being eliminated, their votes got moved up to the next ones that were in the top ranking. I did a mock election. Comparing Governor Dunleavy, Tolan, Begich, and Walker that was in our governor's race. Picked 100 people, said we're going to have 100 people in this mock race. Governor Dunleavy, of course, won that year at 51.4%. In my mock election, he had only 42 or 43% of the vote in the first round using ranked choice voting. By the time I was through, Begich won the race by 2%. He had 51% of the vote. Governor Dunleavy had 49% of the vote. Walker and Tolan, of course, were completely thrown out. Demographics for the race was completely the same. Walker and had already backed out of the race because of the Me Too movement that had taken Mallet out. And so his campaign was lost. Tolan didn't have a chance in the first place to even make it to where he was going to be there, but being an independent, he was in the race anyways. And then you got Begich, the Democrat, and you had Governor Mike Dunleavy, the Republican side of the party. In that race, it was comical watching how 25% that had voted for Tolan and Walker decided who our next governor of the state of Alaska was going to be. The most uneducated voters that we had out there decided who was going to be the next governor of Alaska. 12% out of those 100 people, or 12 votes, right off the bat, went to Walker. Everybody knew for well over a month that Walker had backed out of the race, but they still voted for him. If these are the type of what ranked choice voting is going to allow to happen in our elections, I am a 100% no for the ballot. And you can pull it up on my page if you ever want to see how a mocked ranked choice voting works.
I will do that.
It's something that those that are saying yes on to don't want you to know. They want to make sure that you are completely blind to how the process works. That's why I built the little mock race.
I am going to wind down here a little bit. So
we are. All right, we're going to cover just a couple more things here. We've got, let's see, all of those things have been hit. Binding caucus, social services, gun rights.
Gun rights.
Gun rights.
Well,
Where do you stand on the Second Amendment?
I totally support the Second Amendment. I want to say that I will, of course. Actually, I have something on my webpage I just put on there recently, because out on the campaign trail I found how horrific. Well, actually, I've been hearing more and more complaints out here in the valley about the crime rate, and even more so out in District 8, which all spread out, so they get hit because their properties are larger or whatever, and they really get hit.
They're on
and
acres.
There's a lot of people that are going out, apparently moving in on these acre lots or something. They're like squatters or something all over the place out there. Wow, I'm glad that I have been talking to my constituents. I've always believed this, and I believe this rankage too, and I believe this overall nationally, and I believe that we need to have organized and trained citizen groups. Now, see, because of the media and because of somehow a social turning, I mean, I was just watching, we like to watch the oldies station, and even back in the 40s and the 50s, it was perfectly acceptable for citizens to get together, under the auspice maybe of a leadership of the law enforcement, and go and address some issue. This was a normal course. This was considered normal and acceptable. This is not vigilantism, So I actually want to see that promoted, okay? That's something along with the First Amendment rights, because also you got to stand your ground. You might have to be armed, or hopefully not armed in these altercations. We'll have to see what the laws say about that. But we do have laws on the books for citizens arrest, and I believe that people can stand their grounds, obviously in their home. Any further stand their ground laws, I'll be joining in on that or promulgating them. And as far as the Second Amendment goes, right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Period. I've heard in many of the arguments or that they specify because they try to pick out militia and then they try to, denude that. But we are the militia, so there is no denuding every single citizen's right to keep and bear arms.
So you as a legislator, if you go back, they've got one that they're trying to push. I think it's HB 62. It could be 82, but I think it's HB 62. The red flag laws for gun control that, let's say you own lots of guns and someone thinks you're a danger to society, that they can just walk right into your house and take your guns away from you.
I did a little bit of research on that. I filled out a questionnaire. Some gun rights people did that. So I actually became more involved with, or more aware of some of the issues facing the gun rights right now, because those were on the questionnaire and I had to look them up. So the red flag law, no.
Well, we'll throw another one. Did you know that the Matsu Borough Assembly last night met in chamber, or that they had a big meeting about the gun ranges here in the valley? I had, unfortunately, I had it written on my calendar as being tonight, their normal Tuesday meeting, to have someone contact me after it was already 2 hours into it. Are you not live streaming it? Because I assumed it was tonight, not last night.
Well, they're pulling all kinds of guns of that, but you see, all is not lost. Are you saying that they passed that?
Nope, they did not. The vote did happen at the very end. The vote was split straight down the middle. And because it was straight down the middle, they've pushed the ordinance off to be heard again. I think it's September 11th or somewhere around there.
Good, we'll have more time for that.
I'll definitely be posting the dates on when that is going to be, and making sure that I have the right date for when it's going to happen.
Okay, since you did that, I got to be a little coy here, but coy for the right reasons. So, my husband is involved in helping that, and of course, with some legal issues there, and I'll tell you, there are legal issues there, and that's all I'm going to say. No matter which way it goes, no matter what they do, we have recourse. Those that believe in the Second Amendment.
Second Amendment, yeah.
All right.
And because we are out of time, I'm going to go straight into my last two questions that I have here for you. If voted in, what would be your priorities to accomplish? And number two, what bills would you push to pass?
Okay, my number one priority would be to get the monies out for the PFD. I don't believe that we should be waiting around. There's so many back checks there. I mean, right away, as soon as we join the legislature, especially if we have a Republican House and Senate, we need to get something out. Not be waiting around until next October, which would be a year, more than a year.
Yep.
I mean, so that has to be addressed. Okay, and to get some money out there flowing into our economy. Okay, so and helping those, well, not just that, but I mean for the families and the businesses. That's why we're doing this. Struggling people as we continue to go through this situation. So, with the COVID and with the lower prices, it's a combination of both that are, that's what's hurting us. I think we'd survive here, either one, but not both together. That's what's crunching us. So, that's number one I would like to do. And the other question would be the bills.
Any bills you would like to see passed?
There's too many. There's too many to list that I've seen.
Give me this is coming from you. So if you get a chance to be the head chair of the committee, you get to have your bill heard on the floor. What two bills would you like to see?
Okay. Well, of course, I want to see the permanent fund saved in a permanent way. Permanent fund dividend saved in a permanent way. So that would be one bill.
It's all constitutional amendment.
Yes, a constitutional amendment to save the permanent fund dividend permanently. Okay. That's what I've been campaigning on. So we need that's our right, and we need it preserved permanently. So that's number one. And number two, it's hard. I don't know if it's. I had an answer to this. I gotta try to recall it. It's not exactly a bill, but it's something that I would call for on the floor, and that is the audit I want the auditing into each account and this and that. This has to go, to go along with the spending cap, however it's presented. I'm going to be a junior senator, so I'm going to be, well, when I first get down there, I've got to see the lay of the land first. That's what I'm going to do. But as far as the bill, besides the permanent fund dividend, I think, an action, that would be to call for the audit, an independent audit, because that goes along with, the spending cap, but that's hard to get into the Constitution. So, another bill, then I think...
Which happens to already be in our Constitution, but they ignore it anyways.
But I think, as far as the other things I've heard on the trail, that they're all good. There's so many ones that we need to address. This is another action I want to take, and then I'll get to the bill I think I'm going to choose. An action would be to join in anything where we're going to release monies or whatever we need to do to get a big project going, because even while we're cutting at the same time, we're reducing spending, we need to get a project going. So I would be joining in that. That would have to come up through a bill. But as far as the bill, I think that the retention and the selection of judges, I think that would be what I would go for, because that's been a big block for us.
It has.
So.
And my funnest question of the night, and I think we'll end it with this one. Does Alaska have a revenue problem, or do we have a spending problem?
Well, I think I've answered this question all the way through, but yes, we definitely have a spending problem. We have a spending problem. We need to reduce that spending in line with the means that we have. And actually, I don't believe that it's going to cause the huge havoc that some people think. I mean, the areas are there to reduce spending. I can see them, and that's what we need to do. Just toe that line for 2 years and keep it towed with a spending cap.
Have people voted in that will not buckle to the pressures of the special interests that are out there telling them don't cut 1 red cent of our budget?
Absolutely not. I'm not going to be one of those people, because I'm thinking about the individual, every individual citizen.
Nice. Well, I would like to thank you again, Bee. This is Bee Rupright, running for Senate District D here in the state of Alaska. And if you are, don't forget, we are in voting season now. It started as of yesterday. You can put it through your absentee ballots and get them turned in. You can also start your early voting to where you can go to the different precincts where they are set up and go ahead and cast your ballot for the August 18th election. That is just, for most of us, is right around the corner. Those that want less lines and want to be more COVID conscious, right now, get out there, go vote. You can do it. There's nothing stopping you. I will say, though, call 5 of your friends, go on drive-by, pick them up, make a nice little fun get-together because you haven't hung out for a while, and go vote. Get out there, go cast your ballots. And so that way we can have a fair and free election this year and can get the right people voted into office and not those that are working for just the special interests that are out there. My name is Bert. I am Politidic. And I would also like to say that Facebook does squeal on you if you don't share. So make sure you share this video so everybody gets a chance to see, meet the candidate with Bee Rupright today. Also taking on the mainstream media that is running our state that we have, and the law-breaking legislators and exposing them for the corruption and the deceitfulness and all the things that they are doing within our government that they want to keep hidden from you has turned into a 100% full-time job. In fact, my exposing of them has turned into lawsuits now heading my direction. So I really, really do need your help. Go to my website, politidic.com. That's Politiadick. Again, that's Politiadick.com. Click that donate button. Anything is helpful, whether it be from $5 to $500. Every penny counts. Everything goes in towards expanding my content that I'm able to bring to you, purchasing more equipment so that our content becomes clearer and more precise, and we can start streaming to different channels besides just Facebook at the same time. Our goals are to be on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all those areas streaming at one point to where you can choose your channel to be able to see us from. But it takes your support, takes your time. I've been voluntarily doing this type of work for the last 3 years now and not received a penny for what I do. It has all been a labor of love. But I want to expand. I want to get people to be at the Matsu Boroughs Assembly meeting at the same time that they have a Muni meeting going on inside of Anchorage, at the same time that they have a school board meeting happening in Juneau. I want to be able to place people all over the state to where we can live stream these events to you, but that takes money, something that I'm not made of, so I do need your help. Again, go and contribute. Help us expand. Go to politidic.com and donate today. And thank you all for tuning in. Most appreciated.
Thank you, and thank you, Bart.
Oh, anytime, anytime. And one more thing out there. Windbreak Hotel here, the Trout House. I'd like to thank you one more time for giving us this great space to be able to have our interview in today. Without your support and the availability of doing this, we wouldn't have been able to bring this to you, the audience out there. Love you, Facebook. Talk to you later.